The main point I constantly try to make is that cryptocurrencies aren't actually about money. The largest misconception around this whole conversation is the idea that if cryptocurrencies aren't performing well enough to displace the US dollar, then they're failing. In my opinion, one of the largest misconceptions around this whole conversation is the idea that if cryptocurrencies aren't performing well enough to displace the US dollar, then they're failing. Today, we will discuss it a little bit. The notion that the main goal of cryptocurrency is to displace the established banking system with user-controllable networks. The influence of bank CEOs over cryptocurrency-priced assets is more akin to internet stocks. It resembles a bet more. If you anticipate a surge in internet traffic, you bet on Google, and if you anticipate a return to the post office, you short Google, correct? Not that Ripple, Ethereum, or any other cryptocurrency is attempting to replace. We'll discuss a lot more about how the US dollar is attempting to supplant a system of value transmission, so in my opinion, the prices are no longer that important. Compared to Google's early years of high volatility, people typically take 25 to 30 years to embrace new data transport technologies. Although radio was created in 1890, it didn't become widely accessible until the 1920s. Although email was created in 1969, the majority of you probably didn't have an email account. However, TV was not widely available in households until the 1950s. Up to 1997. The Internet is a global network of connected computers and gadgets that facilitates communication and information sharing. TCP/IP is the one on which I truly want to concentrate. Created in 1970 as a DARPA project. It was not very successful commercially, though. Notably, TCP/IP became the standard protocol for Internet development in 1983, 13 years after its creation, and here we are, 13 years after Bitcoin's creation, only now beginning to discuss standardization. In 1995, TCP/IP was rolled out with Windows 95. This isn't a coincidence. At this point, adoption is more of a human conditioning issue than a technological one because every 13-year-old in the US has only lived in a world where Bitcoin has been there for 3 years. Every 16-year-old from now on will only know a world in which Bitcoin has been there for 16 years and is significant. Typically, when someone expresses interest in becoming a developer, they are at the age of 16, which represents the adoption layer. We are the infrastructural layer in this room, and we must establish a framework that allows every 13-year-old American to construct the next world. Thank you, and I look forward to your questions. Our perspective on the future is not necessary. You do not need to have a future. Instead of using this funding, you can have worldwide liquidity by using a digital asset. We are currently developing an open-source technology called XRP on top of a tech stack. A few engineers initially constructed it, who were aware of some of Bitcoin's shortcomings and the scalability issues surrounding it. Bitcoin, in comparison to today's relatively slow and pricey transactions, XRP is incredibly fast, approximately 1,000 times faster and 1,000 times less expensive per transaction. Some of the more frequently mentioned exotic currencies are used in the alternative dynamic course of correspondent banking. There are still unusual corridors, you know. The existence of these unusual corridors, which are somewhat independent, and the implementation of liquidity in digital assets could greatly democratize this situation and establish a fair playing field. Ripple has aimed to utilize these technologies similarly to how HTTP and TCP are used. Ripple's goal has been to use these technologies in the same manner that HTTP and TCP are used, supporting the informational Internet. These blockchain technologies will serve as the foundation for an Internet of value, in which connected devices and connected information will enable the flow of payments. As Norman was explaining, this would also allow one to determine whether a huge firm is transporting $100 million dolls. It is one thing to be an A, it is another to be an A. You want to be paid 30 or 30 pesos for helping a friend who works as a freelancer in the Philippines perform design work for a company in London. Philippine dollars if it is not an easy transaction to enable. In fact, the organizations that facilitated demand that the freelancer create an account before they will genuinely release the funds, which they withhold until approximately $1,000 are in that account. The use of XRP by sophisticated institutions as a financial asset and bridging mechanism is this harmful or hurtful? It does make a lot of noise, though. We would prefer not to be subjected to excessive noise, but we are patiently waiting. For instance, most of the XRP sales during the most recent quarter went to institutions. Traders, this is your chance to make a move. Do you notice that the first one is for you, IMF? The IMF's future holdings of cryptocurrency, I did not post it. Recall that since I work in the legal department, I should be extremely conservative when it comes to these matters. I won't go into great detail regarding whether or not I should accept the IMF's decision, since I believe that will shock Ross into silence. For this to happen, certain nations would need to employ the existing legal framework. A digital asset serving as its currency. It's a misnomer that cryptocurrency aims to displace money. The goal of cryptocurrency is to displace banks. The subpar actions taken by banks need to be addressed. Since the 1300s, these subpar actions taken by banks will eventually cease to exist. And just to be clear, that means that the reason we even have banks today, which date back to approximately 1340 in Italy, is that a series of accounting innovations made it possible for banks to act as reliable middlemen between parties who owed each other money earlier. Essentially, I would write you a note, promising to pay you money, and you would put it in your pocket to see if anyone else would notice. This is why we call it discounting notes, and that's how banks got started. We would handle that task for you, relieving you of the responsibility. However, you will have to pay us to perform that task because we require a reliable middleman to keep track of account ledgers to determine whether I owe Brooks money or whether Brooks owes me money. It turns out that humans are no longer required to do this duty in the same way that we used to be postal clerks. I apologize, but that's simply how the post office operates. I can send you an email for free, and it will arrive instantly. The function will disappear, leaving banks with just high value-added services. You are aware of their structure. You are an expert in financial investment advisory. You understand every aspect of what makes a dynamic economy run. However, a dynamic economy still requires the contribution of individuals. It takes a lot of ingenuity to accomplish that. The foundation of banks, which is the thing at the base of the pyramid generating the majority of their income, doesn't have to exist in the financial sector. That's why I say, and I was saying to one of the organizers even before we stepped up, that this cryptocurrency panel aims to improve its reputation rather than displace money. The goal of cryptocurrency is to displace banks. Even if this panel holds no significance for you, it is still important to do so. However, it is important that you still complete this task. I am aware that our money has my name on the lower left-hand side. I also own XRP on the Ripple board, but I want to be very clear that, in my opinion, the train has left the station. This goes for fractional real estate, art, NFT blockchains, and anything else that isn't going away. Blockchain technology is here to remain. One of the industry's challenges has been concentrating on finding solutions to actual customers' concerns. Ripple initially focused on addressing the cross-border issue. When it comes to time and cost, payments are where there is a lot of friction, so by concentrating there, we've been able to make a significant difference. Although it may seem like a comparatively tiny bit, I believe that over time financial transactions that involve middlemen will become less common in the coming years. These systems will benefit society as a whole by using blockchain technology and other technologies about digital assets to eliminate friction. You have undoubtedly observed it in a security settlement as a chance to, engage in financial transactions involving bonds and derivatives. Many of these issues take time to resolve, and the friction that results from them slows down the industry. For example, some of our customers have asked us to participate in identity experiments in real estate and title management. These are just a few instances where I believe it's difficult to predict where these developments will go. 25 years ago, when I first became involved in the Internet of Information, I could never have imagined that I would have a smartphone that would allow me to press a button and have a car come pick me up in a matter of minutes. I predict that this will spread throughout many facets of our society and the macro environment around the custody of digital assets. By 2030, experts anticipate the value of digital assets to reach approximately $10 trillion. Eventually, individuals will need a secure place to store their assets and the capability to transfer them, including efficient on- and off-ramps and possibly even a tokenization engine. One of the biggest top 10 banks in the world, which Ripple was already working with, called us on the phone when we first spoke, and they asked if we could help with some of the work that Ripple is doing regarding central bank digital currencies, CBDC. We believe that there are a lot of pieces that come together, and we already have them. We considered the synergy of being able to tell an existing Ripple customer, hey, there's a best in class, because we weren't in a position to provide them custody before the medical acquisition. Going head-to-head repeatedly and emerging victorious in the custody stakes, I believe it's a tremendous chance for the two firms to be able to provide that product to them.